Welcome to the Lighthead online video show. This show is sponsored by Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com, KeystoneTech.com. Hey, Greg, what do you want to tell us about Keystone today?
Well, Keystone's a great company for any lighting distributor or electrical distributor because they really listen to what your concerns are, what is needed in the marketplace, and implement the product. So they have a lot of innovative product at a great price and great service, and that's all you can ask for as a distributor.
Smart Drive, Direct Drive, Combo Drive, all those great names for all their products. They have all sorts of good stuff. Go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KEYSTONETECH.com. Chris Brown of Illumigeddon fame is on the Lighthead show today. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Good. How about you, Greg? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Always. Thanks, Chris.
So tell us a little bit about Illumigeddon and summarize it for us. This show's a shorter one, so give us a lowdown of Illumigeddon and where it's at, Chris.
Okay, Illumigeddon was a word that I came up with to tag the disruption that I saw going on in the lighting industry. And this was about 5 years ago. And the disruption had been brought about by solid state lighting, first and foremost. The technology itself, the new players that we saw coming into the industry, the giants from Asia, the big electronics brands, and then all the little startups that were coming in there and causing waves and taking a little bite out of the big guys' market share. I saw a disruption coming that I thought was at some point going to be fatal to a number of the existing players in the traditional business model because they couldn't react quickly enough to this disruption and start to evolve their businesses to become much more of a solutions provider than just a product supplier. I'm talking about distribution primarily, but I think we have seen already what the disruption has caused with some of the major manufacturers. One of the things that I wrote about was GE, Sylvania, and Philips all getting out of the lamp business. What do they know that we don't know? And I think they just saw what was coming. I had a conspiracy theory years ago that they were all kind of putting the brakes on their LED development. And I think what happened was that a couple of little startups, and we had a great example of it at Wiedenbach Brown, a couple of little startups came out of nowhere with legitimate LED product. My biggest customer, lamp customer at Wiedenbach, called me one afternoon and asked me, "Hey, have you ever heard of blank company?" I had never heard of them. He said, "Well, they were just in here and they had 14 of our executives listening to a pitch on LED and they got really cool product." At that point, we didn't have an LED, but GE, Sylvania, Philips were our suppliers and we didn't have a legitimate LED product.
I think GE, Philips, and Sylvania stopped listening to their customers a long time ago. That was part of the problem. Yeah, I mean, like I would call my Sylvania rep or whatever, and it was they didn't have any connection to the product development, didn't have any connection to the customers.
We had a great example of that with HIR lamps from GE, where they developed a great product, but they hadn't asked to talk to the customers, and the customer had a good enough product to begin with and wasn't willing to pay a premium on that HIR lamp. And your point is well taken. I think they stopped listening. But in any case, Illumigeddon was just the word I came up with to try to wake myself and my company and other people up to the disruption that was already taking place and that ultimately was going to threaten our existing business.
Do you recall the first LED product you saw?
Yes, a flashlight.
What was it?
At education. Okay, but there was a real wow factor to it. It was pretty cool. Okay, but the first legitimate LED lamp that I saw that we sold was a par 38 lamp, and it was at the time it was superior to anything else, and it was pretty cool. And we're talking about.
You remember what brand?
15. Yeah, it was MSI. MSI
yeah.
Snuck in. Did you know MSI?
I think I was trying to think back of what the first one I recall, but it was definitely a par 38 lamp, and that sounds familiar. MSI. That's probably
MSI,
it.
And did you charge $75 or $100 for it?
All right, so here's the story. I went to a buddy of mine at I was chairman of the BOMA Energy Commission in New York in New York City. One of my members, all my members were major real estate companies. One guy said to me when I was telling him about this $70 product, you're never going to sell me that product. I'll never pay $70 to replace a $5 light bulb in my ceiling. About a year later, I sold him that light bulb for $75, and his payback 24/7 in a Park Avenue high-rise building. Payback was 6 months and 2 days. I wish I could have sold them at $75 for the rest of the year. That price, plummeted over 2 or 3 years. But that was the payback, replacing a 90-watt halogen in I'm guessing 6, 7, 8 years ago, probably.
How much is the falling price of LED products really sort of the second phase of this Illumigeddon?
I think. I don't think we saw it as inevitable. In retrospect, it was because of the improvements in technology. But
it's kind of like Moore's law. It's kind of like Moore's law.
Yeah.
Every year and a half, it would increase.
So
phase 2 of Illumigeddon, phase 1 is over. Phase 2 is really this falling price of LEDs.
It's all the same timeline. Okay, Illumigeddon doesn't have a beginning and an end. It's a process. And I think people need to try to figure out where they are in the process, and if they haven't paid attention, if they haven't started to evolve their business, if they don't recognize what I think is the inevitability of lighting as the backbone of IoT, I don't know where they're going to be in 5 years from now. If they have evolved their business and they do have a technology guy on staff and an engineer on staff, and they can go out there and talk the language of lighting today, then they have a good chance to stay relevant, to survive, to bring other solutions, related solutions to their clients, and that includes everything from stuff they might have been doing already, rebate management, things like that, but now the solutions that involve maintenance, commissioning of product, basically start to finish to end of lifetime solutions.
So you were riding the Illumigeddon train for a little while. Now what are you on to? I want to share us a little bit about that.
Now, at some point, I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was no longer an LED headlight on a train coming at me. It was that there is some opportunity here and some niche opportunity. I'm going to be doing a couple of new things. I'm going to be focusing on lighting for healthcare, and senior living. I have a project for lighting for horticulture. I have a DC powered distribution system, a microgrid solution that I'm working with. So I think these are this is Illumitunity. This is looking for niche opportunities that where getting in as an early adopter is going to, I think, is going to work out well. I think if I was still in a distribution business, I'd be doing what I just said. I would be looking to expand our base of skills and knowledge and technology beyond just lighting to things like microgrid, looking at solar, looking at battery storage, looking at power procurement, all things that we could be offering to our clients. Illumitunity is again, that's what I'm calling this now. Illumitunity goes on forever. Illumigeddon has an ending at some point. I just don't know. I guess for every company, it's going to be different.
You ever heard of a guy named Marshall McLuhan?
Sure.
Okay. He was a Canadian, by the way. I'm just going to read a quote from him, which I think is interesting. We look at the present through a rearview mirror. We march backwards into the future. I think that's very sage at this point in the industry. People are kind of trying to get their feel for it. You're talking about, move on from lighting, beyond lighting. Where do you think the lighting business is going to be in 5 years from now? So Greg and I have been very successful in the lighting business, and we're going to continue to be, Greg. But what will we be doing 5 years from now that we're not doing right now?
If you're still in the lighting business in 5 years, if the lighting business hasn't evolved to something that we haven't quite imagined yet, but with mega manufacturers, manufacturing, distributing, installing, selling, whatever, I think you'll be very focused on your clients, on trying to find other solutions for them. I certainly think you guys are going to be around, but I think the business is going to change. And back to a conversation we had earlier about PoE, whether PoE is going to be a factor or not, connectivity is going to be a factor. And
here's what I would say. Here's what I would say.
Go ahead.
I would say that all the things that the PoE promises that you have can be delivered without PoE.
Mm-hmm.
Or 99% of it, let's say, can be delivered without PoE. So,
and what does that do? What does that do to lighting, though? If it's without PoE, is lighting still in the connectivity game?
Absolutely. There's tons of ways to connect. You have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, power over internet over power line. You have there's a Li-Fi. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of ways to connect that have nothing to do with PoE. I think PoE is the only way we can imagine the future technologically working the way we want it to right now. But I don't think that in 5 years you're going to need PoE. I think you can run information on power lines that already exist to the same extent you can with Cat5 cable. So I think PoE is a dead technology. I think it's one of those things.
PoE was a wake up call.
It's a wake up call.
And it hasn't been successful, at least to the best of my knowledge, yet. Okay, so I'm not discounting it, but a part of the reason I'm not discounting is looking at who that Digital Ceiling Alliance involves. Okay, major tech players, deep pockets, and a commitment to making this thing work. So I'm not discounting it entirely, but it hasn't worked yet.
Thanks for coming on, Chris Brown.
You're welcome, guys. My pleasure. Thank you.
All the best.